Hello there, and welcome to Supply Chain Stories, hosted by myself, Seb Taylor from Pod Talent, where we host fantastic supply chain and logistics leaders to discuss their journey, what they're seeing today and tomorrow, and advice for inspiring leaders. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Iñaki Balduz, who has a varied and exciting career with Kraft Heinz as VP of Operations and most recently COO for a leading global manufacturer of a returnable plastic packaging business. Thank you for joining.
Hello, Seb, and thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity. It's a pleasure for me.
No problem. Really excited about this and keen to hear, as I'm sure my audience is. So look, let's get started. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your career journey?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm original from Spain, from the north of Spain, hence my name, not so easy to pronounce. I'm an industrial engineer as a background. I would say that quite early when I finished my studies or before finishing my studies, I became quite interested in systems and optimization. And I remember a couple of jobs during summers, and later on when I did my studies or my project at the end of the studies, it was around optimization systems, flow optimization, and even programming in the early 90s. And when I finished the studies, I was thinking what to do. So I started to work in a very small company, almost it was more a workshop, and I helped there also to reorganize the production. It's when I learned that more than systems and processes, people is the key factor. I learned a lot from the operators that were there. I thought, what should I do after? So I did a post-degree study, but was a post-degree that was not just around the typical business management. It combined things like, and probably you will be surprised, philosophy, anthropology, sociology, plus cost accounting, finance, marketing, organization. So I was really intrigued about how human organizations work and people make decisions. And this was a little bit my background. And very quick, I started to work in Heinz, started in logistics and planning. And then I grew up, I evolved. It was a full journey of growth, learning, and development that took me towards different positions. First in Spain, then in Europe, and finally leading complex organizations across international. I suppose what I enjoyed the most was precisely to build systems to help organizations to evolve and grow. And more lately, I have explored other aspects of my leadership, of my potential. So I've been working in some entrepreneurial initiatives, and also I kept close to investment world, more specifically private equity, what I'm quite interested in. I think that I can contribute there also to help in growth, transformation, and developing better systems. So essentially, this is about me.
Nice. Thank you. Great summary. And we were talking previously about the journey that you had. I know obviously most recently you've been doing some entrepreneurial assignments, but we've talked a little bit around your time at Kraft Heinz and the journey that it's been through. Can you talk to us a little bit about your sort of journey through there? I guess your last role there and how you grew into it, but you've been through seismic change throughout the Kraft journey. So love to hear a little bit about that. Absolutely. And maybe also the skills that you developed as you went forward through that ever-changing landscape as well.
Sure. Obviously, the time frame is very big. We are talking almost 30 years. So the company evolved a lot. I evolved a lot as an individual, as I said, both professionally, but personally, but also the company changed a lot. So maybe I can give 2 or 3 different turning points or stages. I started in the logistics department. By the way, I didn't know nothing about logistics. I was an engineer as a background, as I mentioned, but I knew nothing. I learned there by doing, and because I had an exceptional manager that was crazy about supply chain, logistics, and planning in those years. Still, I have behind me some of the books that he gave me. But I started there, and maybe a quite definitory moment was when I was promoted after a couple of years to lead the logistics function and department in Spain. At that time, the company was not integrated and organized around central functions. every business was almost an independent business. But I had the opportunity to be part of a change. So we started to create European functions, and then it gave me the opportunity to know other different ways of doing things, cultures, countries, and also to help to shape the new organization, in this case, the logistics and supply chain department at European level. So this was probably for me a key moment. I really started to realize that I was working in a multinational environment, and I captured the complexity of the business. The second one that I would describe is when I was given the opportunity to lead operations in Spain, and more specifically to lead a factory. And for me, this was unbelievable. I think we talked about this before, you and I explained this to a lot of people. In my view, if you love supply chain, you need to go through a factory. And then if you have the opportunity to lead a factory, I think this is the maximum. You learn a lot. You learn about individuals, teams, communicate, connect with the external world, with the authorities, also technically, and you are confronted to a lot of different challenges. But more importantly, that experience showed me also how relevant is to work in the organization and in the culture if you want to obtain different results. And it's what we did there. We started with an organization that had very strong values around flexibility, service-oriented, and also very proud about the product. But on the other hand, we had some gaps, and then we worked to change this over the years with acting on the organization and the structure, but a lot in the mindset and in the culture. And then the other moment, because then this was probably like the launch point and stage for the second half of my career, is when the company was acquired by 3G, a private equity, Brazilian private equity, and Berkshire Hathaway. This was an earthquake. This was a real shock in the organization, really. They came with a very strong and clear playbook that was around clear values like ownership, meritocracy, transparency, very strong systems around managing by clear goals and objectives, and a strong focus on effective cost management and a big and bold ambition. So for me, this was a great opportunity. They invited me to come here. I'm speaking from the Netherlands. I joined then the headquarters in the Netherlands for the European operations, and I started to lead a set of factories different across different categories, and to be exposed to a lot of movements, change, speed. It was amazing. And finally, with this, I had further growth, and I started to lead more complex organizations and work a lot in transformation, and ended up in leading the full supply chain for what was called at that time international. We are talking now about the COVID time and right after COVID. So I had there two very, very, very interesting assignments. One was to build the Center of Excellence for Manufacturing in this international zone that it was around 40 different factories across the continents, right? Everything except North America and North America, essentially. I did this in connection with the global team. It was a very formative time. And then the full supply chain leading end to end. So it was an evolution, a personal evolution, was an evolution of the company, moving through different stages. And then I had I was lucky, I had the luxury to be exposed to very different realities in the markets when I work in this final stage of my tenure in Kraft Heinz. So.
Interesting. I mean, look, super interesting, and there's so many elements there. I guess, out of interest, you talk about that environmental change, cultural change as well. I was just interested to understand, like, how did you personally have to develop? What skills did you focus on? Because that change to ownership, accountability, big, bold ambitions. What did the change you see from, if you look back at yourself then and now, what were the one or two big things that had to change, I guess, personally, out of interest?
Yeah. First of all, probably if I succeeded in this change, because there was people that they didn't like and they left. or there was not a good fit and between the new owners and that. And in my case, there were a couple of things that probably resonate. I was quite frugal in general in the way that I approach my day to day, and they were the extreme 3G. So in this sense, it was good. I like it clarity, and probably they were also the paradigm in this sense of clarity. So there were, and then the sense of ownership. It resonated with me also. So there were things that I could relate to. Otherwise, I wouldn't have stayed there. Maybe interesting what I did when already there were news that we were acquiring and people was already frightened because these people were coming. What I did was start to read things about them and a couple of books that were recommended. And then I reunite my team and we spent a couple of days in a very cheap place close to our factory, just reflecting about how we were going to behave as a team and so on. And so we started to prepare ourselves about this. Now, but more specifically, you ask about changes. So probably I learned to be even more decisive. I learned to work in an environment in which you need to make decisions fast, that you need to make decisions also in with uncertainty. The famous rule of the 70%. So you cannot wait to have the 100%. About how important and relevant is to be focusing performance but have clarity about the goals. I remember in one of the visits at that time of the new COO, global CEO of the company, he came to my factory and we were sitting around and we were looking at dashboard, and there was a dashboard that was pretty ugly, a financial one, but then our CFO Javier, he tried to justify and said, "Look, what happened here is that we have received this from the corporate offices there in Amsterdam. These people don't understand what they are saying because this doesn't make sense." We were saying, and then the guy started saying, "Okay, but then are you winning or are you losing? One by one, are you winning or are you losing?" So and this stayed in my head, and of course I assimilated this and I used this later on for my own development and things. So there were quite a lot of things. Some of them, as I mentioned, I felt related to. Other ones, I need to make an effort to catch up.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, because one of my questions was going to be around that piece of advice that maybe helped you as that change, which it sounds like that was a key bit, that winning or losing was a key element.
No, winning or losing, but look, I learned a lot by observing. I learned a lot by doing always. And if we talk about advice, piece of advice, I think I mentioned this to you also in some of the conversations. I wouldn't tell you a specific statement. I like this thing of the "are you winning or are you losing?" I use a lot with my teams when I went to the factories to ask, hey, when I didn't see the things clear. I was very lucky over the time having people, managers, from which I learned a lot. Probably I would distinguish two things that most of them had: passion about what they were doing, were very passionate, and was people that gave me trust. When you receive trust from someone, normally you were much better. You put everything there. You feel that you are empowered to do the things, and normally you give in return, apart from this, trust to them, and it's a very nice cycle. So this is what I got. People that I felt the passion, I felt trust, and I learned also technically from all of them. And if we speak about advice, maybe, or probably is to take everything, at least myself is what I do. I look back and I see this as a journey. My career is a journey. I know that I'm not very original, but when I speak to people and to young people in the past, that normally I used to talk a lot with them, I talk about this as a journey. And there is something that I like, a figure that someone told me once also, and I use quite a lot. Look, during this journey, sometimes you feeling that you are climbing a mountain, or what you think that is a big mountain. Then you realize that maybe it's a hill. When you are there, you see another one that is much bigger, and maybe you're attracted to go for it. Go down, it doesn't matter, and you go for the other one. So it's a journey. Try to enjoy the journey. And I spoke about leaders or my managers, but I should speak about the people, all the people in general. I was fortunate of having very good people working with me. So my point always there is, and what I learned is try to work in your team, support your team, and they will support you. Develop your team. Be focused as a leader in developing, in finding the people, and try to develop. And I had good masters on doing this.
Nice. Right. A lot there.
Yes.
I mean, so just to take back a little bit, I think what was really interesting, just going back to we talk about that change of environment, is that what you did, which maybe was different, is a lot of people will have let that change happen to them, but you took ownership of that change happening, but also not just for you, but you brought your team in and said, look, this is happening one way or another, so let's talk about it. And it wasn't like it sounds like it was more conversational. It wasn't an end goal. It wasn't, we're going to come in and this is the objective. It's more like, what does everyone think? What do we need to do to succeed and stuff along those lines, which is very proactive is probably the best way to describe it, because instead of you waiting for that, those instructions to come, people come and go, by the way, we're doing this, and you go, no, I know. Already doing it. It's fine. Like you talk about, I think, especially in PE, it's, incredible cost accountability, real ownership, big, bold ambitions, but also a lot of freedom sometimes comes from it, because they say you need to hit this, you need to do X, but I don't care how the sausage is made. Or the beans, maybe. That's bad.
No, both things.
Yeah.
No, but you're right. But you're right. And at that time, looking back, and this was 2013, I think we did the right thing, being proactive. Nobody told us, nobody told me, Iñaki, this is what you should do. No, I thought that was the right thing, just to prepare my team for a change that was coming, that we were not so certain about what, but also to build confidence with them.
Agreed. And I love that part. There's two bits around. It sounded like the biggest thing for success is trust and the passion in your team. And if you have that, you can succeed at whatever you're looking for. But they are the key things, and everything else is, well, not nothing, but it's nowhere near as important.
Yeah. There are, of course, there are other elements to put on the sauce, but these ones, for me, at least, my personal view, are extremely important. This to have passion about what you are doing, to go deeper, to try to learn and be better in what you are doing, and enjoying it, and then this trust. Without trust, it's very difficult, because you are not always there. So if you don't trust, for example,
exactly. And as you said, it's around the journey. It's not just the end result. It's around how you get there, and that's where the enjoyment. Everyone looks back and goes, "Oh, it was great getting there." Everyone goes, "It was great to achieve it," but what people really remember is the journey to get there.
Absolutely. Okay.
And so I'm interested. So you've talked a lot about that journey, and I guess that's looking back. But if we look at the future, supply chain is transforming a lot. The world is changing a lot as well, as are, the profiles of supply chain leaders, what they're responsible for. I talk a lot about the commercialization of supply chain. It's always been quite commercial, but it's getting closer and closer to the sales element as well. I guess from your point of view, what do you expect will be the most significant changes we see in the supply chain world in the next couple of years?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think that I will be very original, maybe, if I say the first one, because what is going on, probably is this shift from that already started years ago, and happened a lot with COVID, but we had always an extremely high focus in cost efficiency, and this always will remain. We always need to be efficient, but this is by default. But the shift for me is to put much more focus now in building resilience and in the supply chain, building robust networks. And this means also, on one hand, being able to sense what is going on, and this will connect probably with the other element in the future of the supply, or in the present and future of the supply chain. But the first one is sense what is going on, what can happen, what can change that can impact your operations, and then be ready to move, maneuver, but stay. Don't fall down. Keep your operations up and running, And the secret is, how do you do this? And it's not just about, but it's also about capturing information, but it's also about having your organization probably trained. Like if you like fitness and you go to the gym and you train different muscles, or you want to run and so on, how do you train this agility, not agility in the terms of agile, the methodology, but yes, to be an agile organization that can move fast, and don't fall down. So for me, this is the first one, the focus in building these robust networks that are resilient. And the second one is connected with that in a way, or the second will help the first, but is everything around. We talk about, we use different terms in the last 10 years, the digitalization, in manufacturing was manufacturing 2.0, you remember, and then, but now it's called artificial intelligence. In the past was called artificial intelligence again, but it doesn't matter. This paradigm of the artificial intelligence and the interaction with the advanced analytics, automation, interaction between humans and the machine, if you like, to speed up decision making and to optimize also the decision making process. There is people and some people that I met in the past that they talk about digitalize the decisions, and this is where we are evolving to. In some areas, it's much more clear already. That are examples that are very compelling already, but in others not so much. But there is a lot of work going on, and I think this is going to be not just in supply chain, but in general in the world that we live. It's going to be a full revolution. So this digitalization of the decisions, this interaction between man and machine, and the consequences for me also will be a change in the functions and the roles. In the past we used to talk about functions that were too much silos, and this is changing and so on. But when you start to introduce artificial intelligence, you start to digitalize, you realize probably that the roles definitions that we have built around processes needs to change totally. And probably this is the biggest challenge. So this digitalization is the second. And the third one probably is what you mentioned. You call out commercialization. I think supply chain, increasingly, it was already, I think, but increasingly more, I think it becomes is core in the business, core in the strategies of the company, and a true competitive advantage. And there is an author that says that companies don't compete, supply chains compete, and it's true. And it's the concept of the wider supply chain. It's like the ecosystem. Is your factories, distribution centers, but your suppliers upstream, the ecosystems that you build, the relations with your customers, retailers, or other companies, whatever, is so relevant that I think it will become even more relevant. So I would say these three things.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Again, I don't think that I'm very original with this, but
I don't think it's not necessarily. I think there are definitely elements there that you've talked about, because, for example, again, from a recruitment point of view, you talk about, and we're already seeing this now, with more junior roles, more roles that were a bit more manual being fully automated and being just changed completely or being got rid of as well. I think that paradigm that you mentioned is really interesting way to think about it, which is the digitalization of decisions. Is definitely a different way of looking at those sorts of things as well. I think the competitive advantage piece is very important and something that I've talked a lot about, as well as other people. But I think it's funny the way you talk about it, that businesses that typically compete against each other's supply chains. It's who has the best on-shelf availability, who has the best delivery to market.
That's it.
And the businesses that are agile, adaptable, are able to flex to consumer demands, new market entries, first to market approach, which first to market isn't always the winner, but it gives you a significant advantage. And that is enabled by your supply chain strategy. But being able to do, I think the one part that was really interesting, which I haven't heard as well, was, and we talk about this supply chain strategy, is that scenario planning. I think a lot of people talk about building robust networks within the supply chain silo in their own teams, but it sounded like what you were talking about as well, is going out to the other people in the business, the other functional heads, and goes, okay, what happens if? And we have a lot of what happens if at the moment with Trump. So like, not just talking about it internally in your team, but it sounds like for you, it's about being much more visible. It's moving away supply chain from a support center to an advisor to a strategic partner of the business. Is that fair?
That's it. At the same time, I was reflecting, thinking while you were explaining, because a lot of things that we think that are very much now front end, that are the new thing and so on, were already in the past, probably in a different way. I was specifically about this scenario planning. I was reminding now an experience in the year 98. 98, that I learned from an organization that they were extremely good and precisely in developing future scenarios and what if and developing different potential paradigms, and then how do you adjust for this? Now the difference probably is when we introduce here the power of digitalization that helps you to do this in a much more detailed, compelling way and more actionable. But there are concepts that have been there for a long time. And there is one that always has been there that we didn't mention. I mentioned before that for me is critical. Of course, is people. It's people. And then you talk about, or you can read about people-centric organization. In manufacturing, we used to talk about line-centric organization, but then also people-centric organizations. But everything, this is not supply chain, everything at the end is around people. And in my experience, when things didn't work, or when things started to work well, it was because you had the right people and the right individuals also in place. That then they need a good framework to operate, but having the right approach, the right mindset, people that wants to improve, people that wants to do the right things for the right reason. So for me, this is differential and always will be, independently of having or not robots 100%. And automation. And
no, and it's a valid point. We talk about the things that change and what give you a competitive advantage, but actually, the people are the ones that make and have that impact. But it's enabling those people through the frameworks that you mentioned. So you give them the freedom to be able to make the decisions and not limit them with loads of red tape and bureaucracy and stuff along those lines. But you also give that mindset as well and build that up around it's okay to make mistakes, like try new things, that two-way door that sometimes people in Amazon talk about, that if it's easy to go through and back again, try it, see what works. If not, then you need to have a better think about, but there's nothing that you can
and change. Giving them opportunities. I don't know if you like football. Do you like football?
I do.
Okay, I'm a big fan of Real Madrid. We are not doing so well, but now we are coming back a little bit again, and we have a new coach that comes from the house, from the academy, from Real Madrid, Arbeloa. So you can translate sport to business very easily. And what is he doing now very smartly is to give opportunities to the young people that comes from the academy, from La Fábrica, the factory that they call there, is what Barcelona has been doing over the years very successfully. You can translate this into business. How do you create an environment in which you give opportunities to the young people, to the young talents? The best way to learn and to develop is when you have challenges, sometimes complex challenges that you think maybe 60% and there, but then as a leader, you need to have the courage to give them this opportunity to go and fly.
Exactly.
So this is so important. When you ask me about how the supply chain is going to evolve, I don't think that this is something new, but this is something that needs to stay there and probably differentiate also some successful companies from others, I guess, or at least.
Yeah, maybe. Agreed. And you mentioned there a little bit about the junior talent and stuff along those lines. I guess for people who are entering, they're starting out their career, maybe first year or maybe a couple of years in, what advice would you give to those people who are looking to succeed, who are looking to move forward?
Okay. First, well, I said already one that I think is important. Be ready to receive the challenge and receive the opportunity and embrace it. sometimes embrace the difficulty, embrace the challenge, the thing that maybe it doesn't make you comfortable, but is the opportunity to really learn and develop and grow. The other one for me is for young people, but also for people that is moving and for more mature people is keep always eager to learn. Keep your eagerness to learn more, to go deeper in the subject. It's never late, and try to apply this in my personal life also. We don't have time enough. If not, I will tell you some anecdotes. But be curious always. And probably the third one would be you are not alone. So if you feel that you don't know how to do something, or if you feel how to confront this, ask for help. Always ask for help. And by the way, and this is very well known also, you can go fast alone, but you will not reach far if you are alone. So it's always to do things with people. If you go back to 3G, they used to tell us, good leadership, what is? Good leadership is about delivering results in a consistent way through people, always, through people, through your team. That's it. So I would say these three things.
Okay.
Eagerness and learning and always supporting in others and embrace the challenge. And of course, try to enjoy. Don't suffer. This is the things that, Seb, this is the things that I used to talk to trainees in the company. So for me, I always used to say the same thing.
Yeah. No, agreed. And actually, a lot of because I was going to ask on those, for those leaders that are looking to step into global COO positions, VP of Ops, those sort of, a lot of what you've said, around being curious, focusing on your people, obviously is highly relevant. But is there anything else very specific to them that you would say for them to focus on, to look at? What advice would you give to those?
Okay, so when you are, imagine you are moving to COO of a region or maybe global. I think that first of all, that is very important before being the chief of operations, before being an operations leader, you need to be a business leader. You need to understand your business, understand the business in which you are operating, and behave as a business leader. One of the things that is very important, a company first, think in the company, understand the business. This is the first thing, probably. Second, that at least for me is very important, is think in the company as a system. You are not working in operations as a silo. If you do this, you are done. Think as a system that is interconnected, that what you do here have an impact and influence there, and have always very clear which are the higher level goals, those that we cannot fail. I think probably this is the second one. And the third one, I mentioned, probably this is already more common. I think you need to be ready for things not coming. You need to be perseverant and be persistent. But this is not for operations. This is in general. I think what distinguishes the great leaders probably is those ones that they persevere, they insist. Results maybe doesn't come, but you keep going. That's
great, and thank you for that. I think there's a lot of people who will get a lot from that sort of advice as well. Looking at it, I want to thank you for your time. It's been fantastic just to hear your thoughts. I loved some of the ideas. I love that idea about the mountain, and you get to the top and there's always a higher mountain, so you've got to enjoy the journey, but also the focus you put on people, and how ultimately you can talk about results and everything along those lines. That's what it boils down to. And I think there's some great insights there, and I just want to thank you for all your time there. Thank you for coming on. No, thanks to you, Seb. It has been a real pleasure.